Welcome, welcome, welcome to Misinformation in the Information Age. I think this session is so important, especially during our times now. So we want to go ahead and hop on in. I just have a couple of announcements to make before we get started. You can sign up for my newsletter or anything like that at educatoralexander.com. If you are watching this live, you do have the opportunity to get a CLU/CEU certificate. If you're watching on YouTube, there is no certificate, but I do want to tell you, if you look right under this video in the description and you click show more, you can get the resource that Andy is going to be using today. So get that resource in the description. I am Dr. Desiree Alexander, and I'm the founder of CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. So these are all of the miraculous ways that you can contact me. Take a picture of it. But you also will always have my contact information on my YouTube channel and on my website. So there you go. Some upcoming free webinars. This one, I just can't wait to get into the information. But we also have in August, Intro to Schoology. August 22nd is a brand new webinar. We also have Bitmojis. Nobody teaches Bitmojis like Jen. So that's going to be a treat. We're already over like 150 people registered. So August 29th is going to be that one. Then we're going to hop into September with the miraculous and the incredible Inky. If you don't know Inky, you're missing out. And she's going to be teaching on the differentiation of assignments in Google Classroom in September. And then also in September is Templates for Teachers with the amazing Sarah Kiefer and Beth Kingsley. So I cannot wait for that one. Sarah has taught so many webinars for us. We're so excited. And then we have the wonderful Nadine. If you've seen all the resources that Nadine puts out, I mean, it's pretty incredible and pretty insane. So you do want to follow her on Twitter. And she's going to come and talk about teaching digitally. Don't we all need that? Right at the beginning, well, I guess the middle of September 19th. And then Intro to Wakelet, Learn to Ride the Wave. September 26th. Sarah Kiefer is coming on back and teaching us about Wakelet. And then she's teaching us about WeVideo in October. She just won't quit teaching. We love her. So October, she's going to teach us about WeVideo. And then Nadine's going to come on back again and teach us tech abilities for struggling readers. We all need that one as well. There's a summer camp for pre-K through third grade students. It is free for educators. It is $20 for parents, but you can also get a $5 off coupon. This is going to end this month. Tier. So definitely hop on that while you can get it. And we had distance learning for ELA teachers. I taught it all this week, full day sessions, and they all sold out. And we had people running through the streets, so they added another date, August 11th, which is Tuesday. So you can find that information on my website. And if you're like, that's right, you went so fast, I wanted to write these down. That's okay. Just go to that website that you see on the screen. They're all in the same location, edalex.net/events. We will have an evaluation at the end for those people who are here live. The evaluation will be giving out 15 minutes before we end the session, and it's not going to be turned on until we end the session. So I am going to stop sharing my screen so Andy can share his, and we are ready to hop in and get started. The chat will be your best friend. Hey, Paula from Monroe, the chat will be your best friend. That's where we get all of the questions. So throw your questions in there, get some conversation going. I only want to say one thing before Andy gets started. You know, he's teaching us about misinformation in the information age, and we know that's going to make us think of politics. But this is not a political statement. This is not a political place. We're talking about education, people. So let's keep politics out of it. All right, and I'm going to be quiet and let Andy get started. Thank you, Andy.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. I am so excited to be with you here today. I have been teaching this session for about 4 years, almost 5 years now. And it's taken on a lot of different iterations and looks to it. And it's had lots of different titles. One was just simply reading fluency and information fluency in you, fake news in you. One was a little more aggressive. It was validate this with an exclamation point. But I've really settled on this idea of misinformation in the information age. How do we equip our students and ourselves to deal with all this information that's around us? And we're seeing now that not all of it is true. And so I'd like to start off our conversation with this question of, who am I? So if you haven't checked the slides beyond this, go ahead and in the chat, put, who is this a picture of? So as people are putting that in there, we find out that this is not necessarily, or this isn't Frankenstein, but it's actually Frankenstein's monster. This is something that we've heard and it's kind of been bombarded that, oh yeah, the green guy with the bolts in his neck that walks around town is actually Frankenstein. But really it's Frankenstein's monster, which speaks to this point. A lie told often enough becomes a truth. And I found this attributed to Vladimir Lenin mostly. This even of itself is not necessarily a fact because there's lots of other places that I found that also said that someone else may have said this. So the more often you hear something, the more it becomes the truth or has a chance to become the truth. And a lot of this is because of our confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when we like to we like things to confirm what we already believe. Our brain doesn't like to be challenged all the time. So we sometimes get a little lazy and say, oh yeah, well, instead of doing more research or that doesn't quite fit my narrative, so I'm gonna push that to the side and just kind of go with what I've always believed. And a big example of this, and we're just gonna brush along the edge of politics here for just a moment, is the idea of mainstream news and fake news. When I first started doing this, this is where we had this crossover event right before the 2016 election, that the news that was being shared or reacted to on social media, and this one looks at Facebook itself, it surpassed, it passed up. So there was more fake news that was being shared than actual mainstream news articles at that time. So that kind of gave birth to this idea that we live in a world of fake news. You live in a world of Franken news, news that shouldn't have life. And we're not going to click on it here, but this is an article where it says example, and it will take you to a story about a teenager in Macedonia who first started sharing these fake news articles so that he could make money for himself, for his friends, and for his family. And what he found was the first time he shared a story, he made $150 off of the ad revenue from Google for it. Now the average monthly income is about $150. So he thought, well, I did this once, so I'm going to just start getting my friends to do this. And within a month of his two websites he was running, he had made over $16,000. So there's definitely an incentive for people to share fake news, especially if they have no buy-in to the effects of it in their own home country. This is a quote that's taken from a book called Literacy is Not Enough. And what that is talking to is literacy versus fluency. Literacy is I can read something, I myself I'm literate in Spanish, but I'm not fluent in Spanish. I can't sit and have a deep conversation with someone and understand the nuances and intricacies of that language to know the differences between certain words and phrases. So this is a book that talks about how we need to teach our students and ourselves to be fluent in the digital age. And it says this about the internet. One of the scary things about the internet is that it's an open sewer of untreated, unfiltered information. I know some people are thinking about their friends' Facebook pages or Twitter pages. If students don't know how to navigate it, if they can't determine whether something is really true or not, then they'll just grab onto the first thing they find. And I want to take a moment and give you guys a chance to share in the chat. What is one thing that you can think about that one of your students has pulled up and given to you as fact, or given to you that they found on the internet that you kind of had one of those head tilt moments to say, wait, what is this? Where did you find this? So take a moment and just share in the chat one of those times. We have World War II information.
We have information about World War II. It was completely false.
Give just about another 15 seconds. I know for me, one of the big moments that happened was I was working with a group of third grade students, and we were looking at Martin Luther King Jr. It was February, and we were celebrating Black History Month, and a student brought a fact up about Martin Luther King Jr. And to be honest, I don't remember exactly what the specific fact was, but it's one of those, I really don't think that's true. And so he said, "Oh no, Mr. Meyers, come over here. Look, this is on my website." And as I looked at it, there was a lot of information that was a head tilt. This doesn't look right information. So what I did was I started digging a little deeper, started clicking on different links, and the deeper you went into the website, it turned more and more shocking. And what this website turned out to be was, at the time, it was the number 4 ranked Google search Martin Luther King Jr. website. It was, and is no longer up and available, but it was martinlutherking.org. And anyone who went to this, on the first page, it looked like, this is, not the best, but it looks okay. Only to find out, when I found the About page, that it was run by Stormfront, which is a white national KKK group. So here we are in a very innocent search setting where a third grader has found information that is completely false, presented in a way that looks innocent, it looks normal, but is utterly, absolutely false and damaging. And as of, I think 2 years ago, word got out that this website was out there, and they've completely scrapped the website. So it's no longer available. And I would mention this in my sessions, but I would never put a link to it, because one of the ways that Google works is the more links for something on the internet that are out there, the higher it gets up on your search, on its search ranking. So if I were to do this session 5 times a year and share with 30 people, that's 150 more times that's getting out there. But that's why we have to be able to equip our students with these tools so that they know what to do when they see information that is questionable. And if any of you watch or are fans of John Oliver, you might have seen a few weeks ago his show on conspiracy theories. And in this one, he brought up a picture talking about COVID, where one picture is COVID hotspots, another picture is 5G locations. And there were a lot of people that were calling out and saying that, what, all the 5G is spreading coronavirus, it's activating it in your system. And what they found out was, well, 5G goes where people are. Well, where is the virus spreading? The virus is spreading in the early days where people are. So he pulled up another map of Domino's Pizza in the country, and it all was the same, essentially the same map. So we have to go back to this idea that if something looks like it's false, it's fake, is there a reasonable explanation for why this is occurring? So one of 5 things that he brought up to kind of question the information that's with you. But for our students, and in the book that I referenced, we want to create what's called information fluency. the ability to unconsciously and intuitively interpret information in all forms and formats in order to extract the essential knowledge, perceive its meaning and significance, and use it to complete real-world tasks. So not only do we see it, the information we take in, but what are we able to do with it? And there are three things we can do. We can ask. Think of that as interviewing the website. If that website were to be a real person, what are questions that you can do, or what are questions that you can ask to get information back from it to see if it's good information, false information, or questionable information? We also have to think about access. Just because I found this website, it does not necessarily mean that it's the best website. A lot of what we search is based off of how we type into Google, and there are whole sessions on how you can get more accurate searches based on what you type into that Google search bar. One of the things is just type keywords will allow you to get a much greater hit on what you want to find than if you were to type in full sentences. So if you wanted to find, as we were talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Birth date, you don't have to type in what is the year that Martin Luther King Jr. was born. You can just simply type in Martin Luther King Jr. birth date. And that way there aren't all the distractor words. So remember, just because we have access to a website and it's high up on the Google search list, that doesn't mean that it's going to be the best information. And then finally, we need to analyze sites. We need to go deeper into it. We need to look at the about page. We need to go 2 or 3 levels deeper and put anything that and think about anything that's there that might give us question. We also need to analyze it in the sense that if we don't have at least 2 or 3 other websites that can confirm that information, we need to really question its validity. Now, we're not going to actually do this just because of time. As I told you, I've been doing this for a long time. I think if I wanted to, I could create an entire college course out of the material that I've gathered, because as Desiree and I were talking, every day is like a new day for an example. But if you click on this link, bit.ly/infobreakout, it's going to take you to a website I created a few years ago that has different activities that you can use with your own students. So this is one that I created for a conference in 2017, and it kind of jokes that you go into the room and you get locked in. So in order to get out, you have to unlock this digital lockbox. And what I've done is Google has a copy of this book, and many of the sections are there, some of them aren't. But there's some directions where you, with your students, can actually click on the book, and you can find the sections that I've given you in the description. And you can walk through and have your students do this. And it's a digital lockbox. So if you get the answer incorrect, it'll give you a little clue. It'll say, "Ooh, sorry, try again." Also, while we're here on the webpage, there's a copy of some other activities that I have. And there's also different ways that I've made these specific things. Because I know a lot of times people say, "Oh, that's a really cool thing that the presenter did. I don't know how they did that." So these are just different ways that I've made some of the things that it talks about on the website. And then also, this has been sourced by people in my sessions also, just some things that they've given to the conversation, and I've gone back and just added a few of those things. So that is there for you if you would like to go back and look at that at any time. So we have this idea, we need to ask, we need to think about the access, and we need to analyze. But for students, a lot of times that still isn't real. Like, "No, Mr. Meyers, that's a lot of work. Why does it really matter?" Well, we came up with this idea, another ed tech coach and myself came with this idea about money. Secret Service, part of their duty is to find counterfeit bills. So how do they do that? Well, one of the ways that they do that is they learn and study and memorize what makes a $10 bill, $20 bill, $100 bill real. They know exactly every millimeter of those bills so that when they come across a fake one, they know that it's fake. So in the chat, can you put, just play along with me here. What makes this a real $10 bill? What are features that are also on a real $10 bill? Looks like we have, there's a number 10, we have the dollar amount, the general layout and design. It has a border. If you're from a different country, you might say, oh yeah, that looks like my money in a different country. Yeah, so we see that there are elements that do make this look like a real $10 bill. Now, we know we don't live in the country of monopoly. We know we haven't had, president railroad car and president house or hotel. So we know that that's not real. What are other things here that would, I just called out a few, but what are some other ones that we know this makes this fake? Color, it doesn't have a watermark. Yeah, Hasbro 2009 or yeah, so or you might even have a familiarity that, oh no, I've played Monopoly and that's what the money looks like, and this is, if you notice in the bottom right corner, if you click on that green box, that will take you to this activity. And I've done this activity all the way down with, I think it was a 2-3 combo that I did it with, to start this conversation with them. And this is how I start that conversation about validating information online, is with the $10 bill. They all have this idea that they can lock onto, that you can't just show up to McDonald's with Monopoly money and they're going to give you something back. And that leads to this conversation. So why don't people accept fake money? And this is good to ask out, to call out for those students. And you find that it's not backed up by someone or something. So it's not backed up by government or gold or anything that gives it actual value. Nothing authenticates its validity. Someone in the chat had mentioned the watermark feature. You can use a counterfeit pen. And finally, there's a certain set of standards as to what we know it looks like. It's a rectangle, it's a picture, there's a set of numbers and other counterfeit measures. Those are things that we know not to accept it. So we have to start thinking, get our students to start thinking about websites as having that currency. What gives it value and what gives it credibility? So before we move on to the next slide, what do you guys think gives a website value? What gives a website currency? What makes it a valid, trusted website? Okay, we have the source. It has real, truthful information. It's a primary source, an account. There are other places where you can't support it. Author has valid credentials. It has an about and contact sections. These are all really good. It has an address connection, the about info. So got to wrap that up. So you might trust a website if the claims and information can be backed up by multiple sources and not just different websites from the same source. If they're all just quoting one person or one version of the account or an event or a product, then that might be a little questionable. There's an about me or for more information page that is active and is without bias. And bias is one thing we need to teach our students. You know, what are code words for certain things? What might they really mean when they phrase something that way? And this site has updated links and it passes the eye test. One of the things with that website that I was talking about earlier is it was started in 1999, and for a few years it just sat with a 1999 website design. And then they modernized it a little bit more so it didn't look like a dated website that might be something that someone just created, over an adult beverage and some bad intentions. So if it passes the eye test, then there's a chance that it is a valid website. Now I'm going to show you 3 kind of geeky tools before we jump into a few examples of whether a website is real or not. These are 3 tools that you may or may not heard of. One is the Wayback Machine. Another one is Google Image Search. And then the third is something called Checkhost and Whois. So, and can you, Desiree, what was James's point? I didn't see it in the chat there.
Yes, he pointed out that this also applies to books on Amazon, and beware that there's fake books on there. And he said if you ever looked up books on Google Classroom, you would see what he means.
Oh,
so
yes.
If there's no bio on the author, you should beware.
Yes, yes. So the Wayback Machine is, and this was just a screenshot that I threw in here, but if you click on the link, what the Wayback Machine is the Wayback Machine is a service that has kind of cataloged the internet. So you can look back at any particular time for many websites, and I'm going to use CNN. And what it's done is it's taken screenshots of the website on that particular day at any particular time, if they have it. So this is beyond just validating a website information. This is an amazing tool where you can go back and you can look at a web page, especially news web pages, just to see what was going on in that particular day. And what it should do is it'll pull up a version of that page. Try a different one. It'll show up a version of that page on that specific day. So this is what CNN looked like on November 10th, 2000. Back then, in a simpler time, when these are the things that we had to worry about. So how is this valid for our misinformation? Well, if there's a website that you're looking at that has changed its point of view, maybe it posted something it shouldn't have, and now they're denying the fact that they ever posted that. Well, if you have the website and Wayback Machine has captured it, then you kind of have a gotcha moment to say, well, yeah, you know that thing you didn't say? Well, this is your web page on November 10th, 2000 that shows that this is what you posted. They like to say the internet keeps receipts. This is a way that you can look at things that have been shut down or people have tried to change their mind and say, no, I really didn't say that on that website. Well, here's the evidence. Even though that website might be completely off. There's a website a few weeks ago about hydrochloroquine that was about frontline doctors that was created and 2 days later went off. So it was created, they registered for the website, and then 3 or 4 days later, the website went live. and then it had some controversial information on it, and so they just killed the website. Now you could use Wayback Machine to go find the website and pull it up on those days that it was active, if you knew the days that it was active. So Wayback Machine is a very useful tool, and it's kind of a fun tool just to go out and see what websites looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, back in the 90s. Next, we have Google Image Search. It's a very simple tool that's kind of hiding in plain sight, and one that I use a lot of the time to validate pictures. And just recently, we've had a big event in Georgia where this photo started going around of students who were not wearing masks, and there was kind of this outrage over it. And I don't know about the people that you interact with on social media, but I had a few friends that were claiming that this photo was taken from last year. So I thought, well, that's kind of interesting that that would resurface. But in order to go to a Google image site, you just go to Google like normal. Sorry, James asked about the Wayback Machine. You might be able to. There's a good chance that everything on CNN has been cataloged. If it is a higher hit website, so there's greater chance that people are looking at it, a more popular website, then there's a greater chance that those things have been archived by the Wayback Machine. I know I went to go look at an old website that I made in high school, and it didn't have it. I know I'm not the same as CNN, I guess, but it didn't have it cataloged. So major websites more than likely would have most of their content available. Excellent question. So to go to a Google image search, you just simply go to google.com and click on images. And then now you can either copy the link on a picture, or you can see if I have it here. So you just find that you download the picture and you upload it. And maybe that was a different one. Oh, I uploaded the wrong picture. That was this picture I uploaded. But when you upload the picture, it'll show you when that was posted. And so a few days ago when I did this, or I think it was last week, it was showing, oh, well, this picture showed up 4 hours ago, 19 hours ago, 20 hours ago, 19. So it shows when that picture has been put online. And you can go a few pages, go to next, go to next, go to next. And if you start seeing ones that say 1 year ago, 6 months ago, then okay, this isn't as recent as I thought. Another example, and I'm not posting it on the seminar here today, I had a friend who posted something from a protest. And I was looking at and claiming that it was happening that day. And I think this was about 2 months ago. And I looked at the picture and I thought, man, those people are wearing some old clothes. That picture looks a little faded. So I took a screenshot of the picture. I threw it into a Google image search, only to find that this picture was taken in the late 80s and has been reused over and over and over, almost by all sides of the particular argument. Funny enough, as part of disinformation. And there are actually websites that had covered this picture to say, if you see this picture online, please know that it's not from the current protests or the current movement that's happening. It's an old picture. Just look at their, no one's wearing a scrunchie or banana clip or anything, but you can just look, it doesn't pass the eye test. But again, if you're rolling with confirmation bias all the time, you're going to hit share, not think about it, and just keep passing that information along. Another really cool thing that I actually use more than the desktop version of Google Image Search is you can actually use this on your phone. And it's a little tricky, and depending on your browser, But if you click on, like if you have a Google phone, even an iPhone, when you open your web browser, in the top right corner, you'll see 3 dots or your settings. And if you go to google.com and you click on view as desktop site, that will give you the ability to click on the top right corner and find images. For some reason, I'm not 100% sure why, but the mobile version does not have images in the top right corner. So you have to view desktop site. And then that's an easy way for you if you're on social media and you have a well-intentioned friend that posts something, you don't really, you don't think that's really a valid picture to the time we're in. You can take a screenshot of it, crop it down, and then you can just throw it into the image search to see if it's a current image, an old image, or even if it's a doctored image. One thing that a news website a few weeks ago got caught with the Seattle protests, the Seattle movement, and Portland movements was doctoring photos to add other things to it. So you can upload that image, and it's going to show you multiple versions of an image to see if it's been altered or changed. Yep, just like James had shared in the chat. And then this is our last one, and this is probably the nerdiest of all the things in here. But there's something called Checkhost and Who Is. And what it does is it reveals the data behind a website. So this is where you can really catch people. The Martin Luther King website, for example, it'll show that it's actually registered to Stormfront. So if you don't know who Stormfront is, that's just a simple Google search. So if you click on the link there, let's do ESPN. And it's going to give you all this data up here is not necessarily the most relevant, but it's showing where it's where it's pinging from, where the information's coming from. But I really like this who is data. I know it's a little hard to see, but this shows you all the things about it. Where is this website actually registered? Is this registered in Russia, a foreign actor? Is it registered in China? Is it registered in an area that is showing like Macedonia, the teenager that I talked about earlier? Is it from areas that we know are putting out fake information? It'll also give you a administrative email. So who is this person that is claiming ownership of it? And it shows you also one thing is the creation date. So the ESPN was created on October 4th, 1994. So if there's a website that was just created 20 minutes ago and already has 1 million hits on it, and it looks like information that's kind of sensational, then that's a way you can say, well, this might not be as trusted as this other website that's been around for years and years and years. It's a really interesting, deeper tool to kind of find that information more about the website. Not something that I think third graders would be using all the time, but for yourself and for older students, it's something that they can do. Okay, so let's jump into some websites. Let's get some practice in. All of these websites are sites that you can use with your students at any age. I have used all of these websites here with students, that 2-3 combo, all the way up through the college students that I worked with a few years ago at UC Davis. So the first website is DHMO.org. And as you go through this website, kind of think about the things that we've talked about, and things that might make you question whether this is valid information. as we read about the controversy surrounding dihydrogen monoxide. And you know what, for this part too, this will be a little more conducive for mics off. So if you want to take your mic off and share what you see, things that validate it as a website or things that invalidate it as good information for a website, please go ahead, turn your mic off and just share what you're seeing.
You can now unmute yourselves.
Yeah, we're going to break protocol. It's okay. You have permission. I mean, is anyone afraid of DHMO? Do we have any science teachers in here that can help us with this? Because there are some pretty salacious claims here that DHMO is a primer in our environment and in cancer. There's research. Formatting looks a little off. The site depends on us. It's not giving us, you know, it's putting it on us to verify it. There's a big sales pitch. There's even a store. A lot of times the scientific information, you know, they're not going to try and sell you something. They're trying to help you. They're trying to create awareness. They're not trying to sell anything. There's this idea here that the volume of emails we receive, we're not able to reply to everything. So let's dig into this a little bit. As we look at this website, it's not the greatest website ever created, but the links work. Everything goes to legitimate pages, but they might just be kind of generic pages. You know, these are pages that it is the National Cancer Institute, but does not specifically talk about DHMO. We talked about the store there. And it just kind of talks about the issues. Well, DHMO is actually, so dihydrogen monoxide is really, it's H2O, it's water. So dihydrogen, oops, that's not the right one. Usually when I'm in a classroom, I would just go on the whiteboard and draw this. So all they've done is they've taken hydrogen dioxide, 2 hydrogen molecules and 1 oxygen molecule, and they just kind of switch the words around to play on it to say hydrogen, dihydrogen, so 2 monoxide, 1. So they're just playing with the word H2O in a scientific way to scare people, or to create a fake website about water. And many of the things it goes into, it talks about creating rust, and too much of it can kill you. Well, of course, water can create rust. You can drown in water. So the claims are somewhat true, but it was a website. This one, I believe, was created by some science teachers at a high school to create awareness of fake information. But this one actually, I believe it was in Denmark, a politician there saw this website, brought it to their national legislature, and started spouting off all this research about how the hydrogen monoxide is going to start killing people and we need to be aware of it and what is our country doing about it? It's a real threat. And the opposing party said, you know, dihydrogen monoxide is really just H2O. It's just water. And so this person was, you know, kind of made this national fool and was made fun of. But then a few years later, the opposing party, they forgot about this website and someone in their party brought that up and everyone on the floor of their legislature said, hey, you idiot, we just already went over this a few years ago. So intelligent people are tricked by this stuff if you don't look behind the curtains a little bit. This next one, this is probably my favorite website on the internet. I'm not going to tell you if it's true or false right now, but go ahead and take a look at how we can save the endangered Pacific Northwest tree octopus from extinction. What makes this a good website? What makes this not a good website? What makes it a valid information? What makes it invalid? If you've seen it, play along and kind of help us out with this conversation here. The site is well constructed with active links. Yeah, especially compared to the last website. This looks like a much more legitimate website, one that's updated possibly more often. If a website's taken care of more, not just put on the internet and forgotten about, then there's a possibility that someone's putting true information into it. And just for the sake of time, because this one can be just a fun website to look at for a very long time, but this is a fun one to, with your students, kind of go back and forth with them to say, well, what do you mean this isn't true? Look, there's all these pictures, there's a map. This looks like an old-timey photo from the 40s. If you click on sightings, it has a picture of it crawling up. And of course, this is a website that is fake, but it is a very well done fake tongue-in-cheek one. And I think this is the year that I'm going to put some of their swag on my Christmas list because I would love to do this presentation with one of these t-shirts. Next, well, I'm just going to give you, for the sake of time, there are a few other websites that I've put here. I know a lot of people have heard about All About Explorers. All About Explorers is a really well website that was created by a few teachers that talks about explorers, and they have kind of these half-truth narratives about different explorers and what they did. For example, talks about Sir Francis Drake. Yeah, and you're welcome to everyone who learned about the Northwest tree octopus. But it looks really legitimate, but if you have to go and look at the claims. So it says Sir Francis Drake did all of his exploring, it goes into details about it, it's a little murky. And then at the end it says, well, he didn't quite get the same notoriety as Christopher Columbus, so he decided to open up a coffee shop in New Jersey. He lived out the rest of his life making the most incredible coffee, which is what he's known for now. So it's one of those things also we have to teach our students, read the whole article, read everything before you just copy and paste the first paragraph, which we as teachers know you just copy and pasted. But it's a very interactive website and a good tool to show students about those nuanced websites. The Dog Island is a fantastic website as well. It's a website that claims you can have your dogs go and live on this island for free with other dogs. It gives you a weather report, and younger students love this one. It gives you a weather report. It gives an active dog count, and it's created really well. But if you go into the frequently asked questions, you'll find things like, well, what if my smaller dog is being picked on by a bigger dog? And they say, well, if a younger dog's been being picked on, or sorry, a smaller dog's being picked on by a bigger dog, we give them weapons and firearms to protect themselves. So your dog will be okay. So you have to kind of go deeper into it to find more information about it. But this one's always an interesting conversation. Wikipedia. Is Wikipedia valid information? Is it fake information? What is the place for Wikipedia in our classrooms? Sources at the bottom. That's a really good point. If you go to any Wikipedia article, oops, I'll pull up the Sacramento Kings, my hometown basketball team. Does not say the greatest basketball team in the NBA, but that's okay because they aren't. But at the very bottom, you'll find all of the reference links. This is where the money is. This is what I love about it. This is where you can validate the information that's in there. Think of it as like a research a document. You have to cite your sources. So this is where we have to really train our students to go look at the bottom, because Wikipedia is changing all the time by anyone. Anyone can go in and change it, and you see it all the time. And, they pull these screenshots of when someone changes something that's completely untrue just to do it. But if we teach our students that, okay, well, if you see it there, now I want you to take the next step in using the tools that we've taught you about ask, analyze, and access. Okay, so what is that? This website here, is it valid? Is it what you're actually looking for? So Wikipedia can have a place, but you have to put in effort for it. You have to put in effort to make it valid. And then the final thing I'll go over with you here is on the resources slide is, this is a rubric that I found, and I feel really bad about it because I always try to give attributions and credit to people whose stuff I've used, and even contacting them to see if I can use it. And this is a rubric, once it loads up, that'll give you things for older students that they can actually take a look at. And they can measure on a scale of 1 to 5 how accurate that category is. And there's 10 categories. And what they can do is they can look at a website, they can score it themselves. And then if the final score is between 80 and 100, then it's more than likely that it's going to be a trusted website, but they still have to go back and they still have to think critically about it and compare it with other sources. For whatever reason, it's not look like it's loading. Let me just download it to show you. Here we go. But I say I feel bad about it because I found this years ago, and I modified it just slightly. But even using like a Google image search, I can't find on the internet where I originally found that rubric. So to that teacher out there who made that, thank you. I modified it slightly, but it's a way that you can give another tool to your students so that they can validate their information. Are there any pressing questions that you guys have for me today?
I don't see any questions.
And please feel free to use any, if not all of these resources with your students. I know there's another presenter that I really enjoyed, John Crippo, and he says, you know, with my sessions, you always get a lifetime tech support on this. Please feel free to message me on Twitter. If you're on Twitter at EduTechAndy, I am more than happy to work with you on things. I'm always trying to add to this as well. If you find some amazing resources, oh, Andy, I found this website that I use with my students to help with this conversation. Please send that to me, and I would really love to just keep doing this work with you. So I'm super excited that you guys came today. Sorry I did so much talking, but like I said, there's just so much information out there that I want to make sure that you have that is not readily available. So thank you for being here. I'll stick around if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much, Andy. This was so informative, and not only informative for us, but we can share this with our students and actually teach it to our students using the resources that you gave us. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Put those thank yous and that love in the chat, because I will share the chat with Andy. So thank you, Andy. We really do appreciate it.
Of course.